The world before Rome's silence was anything but quiet. It was shaped by constant movement, conflict, ambition, uncertainty. Kingdoms rose quickly and fell just as fast. Trade routes were fragile, often disrupted by danger. Beyond the walls of any city, security was never guaranteed. Life depended on chance as much as effort. And then, gradually, something shifted. Over the course of 2 centuries, an empire extended its reach across vast distances and introduced something rare for the ancient world, a sustained period of stability. But that stability came with its own questions. What does peace truly mean when it is maintained through power? And how long can order last when it rests on force? This is the story of Rome at its height, a time when much of the known world came under a single system, and for a while, held together. Before the Pax Romana, there was no unified order. Across the Mediterranean, life followed patterns shaped by nature and necessity. Farmers worked the land from sunrise to sunset, dependent on seasons that could not be controlled. Merchants sailed uncertain waters, facing storms and the constant threat of piracy. Cities stood as centers of culture and trade, but they were never entirely safe. Each one remained vulnerable to conflict. Rome itself had known instability. The final years of the Republic were marked by internal divisions. Political rivalries escalated into violence. Alliances shifted. Civil wars reshaped the balance of power. The assassination of Julius Caesar did not restore stability. It deepened the crisis. Elsewhere, the legacy of Alexander the Great had fractured into smaller, competing states. In regions like Gaul and Britain, societies remained independent, organized around local traditions rather than centralized authority. Each region had its own identity, its own systems, and its own vulnerabilities. There was no overarching structure connecting these worlds, only a collection of cultures, each navigating its own uncertainties. In that environment, power determined survival. The transition did not happen overnight. It came at the end of prolonged conflict within Rome itself. Years of civil war had pushed the Republic to its limits. The political system that once balanced authority among many had become unstable, shaped increasingly by individual ambition. After Caesar's death, the struggle for control intensified. Out of this period emerged Octavian, a figure who would redefine Rome's future. Careful, strategic, and persistent, he consolidated power step by step. His victory over Mark Antony and Cleopatra marked more than the end of a rivalry. It marked the conclusion of an era of internal conflict. In 27 BCE, Octavian assumed the title Augustus. This moment signaled a shift. While the structures of the Republic remained in place, real authority was now concentrated. Decision-making became centralized. The uncertainty that had defined previous decades began to fade. From this consolidation came a new phase in Roman history, a period of relative peace, shaped not by equality, but by control. This transformation relied on systems that were both practical and far-reaching. The Roman military played a central role. Legions were no longer temporary forces assembled in times of crisis. They became permanent, disciplined, and organized. Their presence ensured stability within the empire and deterred threats from beyond its borders. Infrastructure supported this control. Roads connected distant regions with remarkable efficiency. Built to last, they allowed not only trade to expand but also enabled rapid movement of troops and communication. These routes linked provinces in ways that had not existed before. Law provided another layer of cohesion. Roman law introduced a degree of consistency across diverse territories. While it did not treat all individuals equally, it established a shared framework. Disputes could be settled through recognized systems rather than immediate conflict. Agreements could be enforced. This encouraged economic activity and reduced uncertainty. Trade networks expanded as a result. Goods moved across long distances with increasing reliability. Olive oil from Hispania, grain from Egypt, and countless other resources circulated throughout the empire. Markets grew, and urban centers developed alongside them. Under Emperor Trajan, Rome reached its greatest territorial extent. From Britain in the northwest to regions near the Persian Gulf in the east, the empire covered a vast area. It was not only its size that defined it, but its connectivity. Yet, this level of organization required constant effort, and it came with consequences. Behind the visible achievements were quieter realities. The expansion and maintenance of the empire depended on labor, often difficult, and unrecognized. Large construction projects, including roads and public works, required significant human effort. Not all of it was voluntary. The experience of the Pax Romana varied depending on one's position within society. For some, integration into the empire meant opportunity. For others, it meant adjustment. In regions newly brought under Roman control, local customs continued, but within limits. Over time, language, administration, and culture reflected Roman influence. Consider a young man in Gaul. As his region becomes part of the empire, he encounters new systems and expectations. Latin becomes increasingly important. Military service offers a path forward, but it also ties him to a larger structure beyond his community. Elsewhere, individuals brought into slavery formed a significant part of the workforce in certain areas. Their labor supported households, agriculture, and industry. Their lives were shaped by circumstances beyond their control. In cities, the contrast between wealth and hardship was clear. Grand residences existed alongside crowded living spaces. Urban life brought opportunity, but also challenges, including the risk of fire and the spread of disease in densely populated areas. Even during a period often described as peaceful, daily life could be demanding. Stability did not eliminate difficulty, it changed its form. At the same time, the empire developed in ways that were unprecedented. Urban centers became focal points of life. Rome itself grew into a vast city, supported by advanced infrastructure. Aqueducts transported water over long distances, supplying homes, baths, and public spaces. Architecture reflected both practicality and ambition. Public life expanded. Theaters, forums, and arenas provided places for gathering. These spaces shaped social interaction and reinforced a shared cultural experience. Even among diverse populations, administrative systems became more structured. Taxation, record-keeping, and governance extended into everyday life. The state became a consistent presence, organizing and influencing how people lived and worked. Identity also evolved. Being Roman was no longer limited to those born in the city itself. Citizenship could be extended, gradually incorporating people from different regions. This created a broader sense of belonging, though not all individuals had equal status within the system. While some benefited from these changes, others remained on the margins. Economic and social differences persisted. Wealth and influence tended to concentrate among certain groups, while others had limited access to opportunity. The empire brought unity, but not uniformity. Rome's influence extended beyond its borders through trade and interaction. Connections formed with distant regions, including parts of India and China. Goods such as silk and spices moved along established routes, linking societies that had previously been separated by distance. These exchanges were not only economic, they also involved ideas and cultural elements. Within the empire, regions began to specialize. Egypt became a major source of grain, supplying large urban populations. North Africa contributed significantly to agricultural production. This specialization increased efficiency but also created interdependence. The system worked as long as it remained stable. Disruptions in one area could affect others. Maintaining balance required ongoing management. Outside the empire, perceptions of Rome varied. Some saw it as a source of order and opportunity. Others viewed it as an expanding power that imposed its authority on different cultures. These differing perspectives shaped interactions at the edges of the empire. At times, resistance emerged. In regions such as Judea, cultural and religious differences created tension. These tensions occasionally led to open conflict, reflecting deeper challenges in integrating diverse populations. In Britain, resistance took the form of organized opposition. Local leaders, including figures like Boudicca, led uprisings that demonstrated the limits of Roman control. These events served as reminders that stability required constant reinforcement. Within Rome itself, intellectual discussions reflected on the nature of power. Philosophers such as Seneca and Marcus Aurelius considered the responsibilities of leadership and the ethics of governing a vast empire. Their writings suggest an awareness of the complexities involved in maintaining authority over diverse peoples. They recognized that stability was not simply a matter of control. It also involved balance. Over time, maintaining that balance became more challenging. The systems that supported the empire also introduced rigidity. Expansion slowed, and defending existing borders required significant resources. The costs associated with administration and military presence increased. What had once felt like strength began to require greater effort to sustain. The long period of relative peace was not permanent. No system of this scale could remain unchanged indefinitely. Yet, its influence continued beyond its own time. The legacy of Rome is still visible in many aspects of later societies. Legal principles, infrastructure concepts, and administrative practices developed during this period shaped future systems. The idea of connecting large territories under shared rules and networks became a lasting model. At the same time, the complexities of that system remained. Stability achieved through power carried inherent tensions. Economic growth existed alongside inequality. Order did not eliminate underlying challenges. The Roman Empire at its height reflected both achievement and limitation. In the end, the questions remain. What defines lasting stability? How should power be used to maintain order? Rome provided its own answers through its institutions and practices. For nearly 2 centuries, It maintained a level of cohesion across a vast region. But like all historical systems, it was shaped by time. The Pax Romana was not simply a period of peace. It was a moment in which many forces came together, creating both opportunity and challenge. Its impact can still be studied, not only for what it achieved, but for what it reveals about the nature of power, stability, and human societies. And in that reflection, its story continues.